I do. Right here.
Do you want to pass it out when you're ready? I just want to be sure.
I printed one off. Printed it on my computer.
We're good. Okay.
On my iPad tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the
I got it all right here.
Regional Governing Board, Southwest Vermont Regional Technical Center School District regular meeting for Monday, April 8th, 2013.
She was cute.
I want to welcome everybody. We do have a quorum present, so we will proceed. And we'll begin with the first item on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any public comments? Barb.
I'm here to talk tonight about the course Technical English, which I understand is going to be voted on as to whether it's going to continue or not this evening. It's an important decision, and I urge you to consider it very carefully. I'd like you to do that in light of our most recent NEASC evaluation. One of the three recommendations that was made at that time by NEASC, which is the board that accredits the school, is that we are recommended to ensure that prior to programs being added or closed, data is utilized to support the decision, and that staff, community, and business are involved prior to any final decision. Jim Culkeen told me several weeks ago that Tech English was to be eliminated. I asked him why. He responded to me with, a few arguments, one of which was about curriculum. He said that we didn't meet the Common Core standards. That's entirely not true. For anyone who's read the Common Core standards, they'll be aware that the informational literacy component of that set of standards is huge, and it is very, very serious. We meet them. There's one standard that I don't meet, teaching Tech English, and that is a literature standard for teaching Shakespeare. One. I was also told that it was about numbers, and over the past couple of board meetings, I've come in and suggested to you and provided you numbers for that program. The program pays for itself. Returning to curriculum, it is the only English course available to tech ed students that really addresses transition to work. Currently, Mount Anthony's NECAP scores, which are the assessment scores that are taken by all 11th graders prior to coming to the school, in writing, 63% of Mount Anthony's students are not proficient in writing. 26% are not proficient in reading. I understand that this is a huge concern for everyone, and that Mount Anthony is working hard to raise the abilities of their students, but I believe very much that paying attention to the 11th and 12th graders who've already gone through that testing cycle is not going to be their first priority. We want our students to go out of school fully literate. Another issue that comes up with Technical English is the question of access for students from sending schools. Unfortunately, transportation means time for students. And by providing Technical English at the center, we are giving them the opportunity to earn a required graduation credit, which enables them to come to our center. When you look at the time for transportation back and forth, that simply can't happen if we're not able to provide that service to many of those students. I asked Jim, why was the decision to cut Tech English made, or the recommendation, why is he going to make that recommendation to you? He told me that it was the least damaging thing we could do for the center. I don't see it the same way, and I hope that you'll consider that. In addition to the idea of not making changes without a solid data basis, I'd like to point out to you that there was a second NEASC recommendation that is very pertinent here, and that is that it is recommended that the issues of trust and fostering of collegial working relationships, which have eroded during the numerous leadership changes over the last 5 years, be made an immediate priority for the superintendent and director. Tonight, you're going to hear about more resignations and about reducing another teaching position. I want to be crystal clear about this. There are 18 teachers teaching classroom duties on a daily basis. 4 are resigning and choosing not to return. 1 is having a significant 50% change in schedule, and 1 has not been offered a letter of intent to hire. If all of those changes are made, you are looking at a 39% change turnover, which is extremely high for any institution to survive. I think that this is a huge problem for the climate of the center, and I think that it is not a good time to make any further cuts. I'd like to thank you. Good night.
We have in the action items the discussion that will follow. So when we get to that, we'll take up the discussion at that time.
You have other public comments.
Yes, and other comments, yes, please.
She's a little taller than me. Good evening, I'm Wendy Klein, the co-op coordinator here at the CDC. And I would also like to comment on the recommended staff reductions that you'll be voting on this evening, specifically the elimination of the Tech English class that Barb just spoke to. I believe another one of my colleagues following me is going to speak to the potential impact that this reduction will have on enrollment, particularly with respect to non-Mount Anthony Union High School students. I instead would like to address the other important consideration. Barb touched on it in her comments a little bit, that of literacy and employability skills. I don't think I need to convince you of the importance of literacy and literacy and communication skills. As the CDC, I think we all believe it is critical to our mission that we ensure that every student, not just those students who enroll in the Tech English class, walks through our doors, walks out of the CDC with improved literacy and communication skills, as well as increased and enhanced employability skills. You have in Barbara Gorbati an incredibly dedicated educator who is very well respected by her students, by all students, and in my opinion, the CDC might consider doing what other tech centers do, which is to leverage the talents of their technical English teachers to teach literacy and communication skills to all students in the center, not just those in technical English classes. This happens in other centers around the state, and I would recommend that that's something the board consider doing rather than eliminating the position. And I'll leave you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kathy Slade. I'm the medical professions teacher here at the CDC. And if you do know me, you know speaking on the camera is not my thing to do. I'd rather go and have 4 root canals this evening. So that's how strongly I feel about what I'm going to speak about. I'm really concerned about the potential elimination of technical English. If Tech English is cut, it will adversely affect our enrollment. Almost every CDC program's numbers will be hurt. While the vast majority of our students do come from Mount Anthony, the CDC's had a goal of increasing our non-Mount Anthony students, and we have been doing that. I went a good 10 years with all Mount Anthony students. In the last 2 years, I've had 4 non-Mount Anthony students. So we need to address the needs of those students outside Mount Anthony. The students who come to us from Arlington, BBA, some of them from Grace Christian, are taking Tech English. They will not be able to get their English requirements for graduation if we eliminate Tech English. If Tech English is cut, we will lose those students. Every program's numbers will go down. So please consider these enrollment issues when you're deciding on this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay.
Can I ask a question? Wendy, you commented that the technical English instructor should be teaching all the students in the center, and that's done at other centers. Can you explain that a little bit better?
Well, I have the benefit in my role to attend state co-op meetings 6 times a year. I try to make as many of those as I can. And through the conversations that I've been part of in those meetings, we often talk about employability skills specifically and how that's done in other centers. We are the only center in the state that offers co-op as a class, as I think you know. Many of the other centers, and unfortunately I can't cite which ones they are, but there are some other centers who leverage the technical English teacher, does some of the employability skills work across the center, but works with the co-op coordinator in teaching resume writing, interviewing skills, and those kinds of things.
Okay, I was trying to understand the structure of what you were describing. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on then, if there's no other public comments, to committee reports. And so we're going to start with the Strategic Planning Committee. And the minutes are in the Dropbox for the Strategic Planning Committee meeting that took place just recently on April 3rd. Gloria, you want to give us
Yes, I just want
rundown on
to
that?
do the highlights of the committee. The workshop and economic development group has been meeting regularly in our community, and the CDC has been encouraged and will become actively involved in this group. We've had some participation, but it will become regular. The Select Board feels that it would be very important to meet with local school boards to find out the possible needs of the business, technology, and workforce development segments of our community. The CDC plans to participate in this meeting. The committee feels it can hold off on the community night that we've been planning by first getting involved with the existing economic project in the community and then going on from there. We plan to send representatives from the CDC to the town forum group in mid-May, and we also need to reach out to the Manchester community area, as they have some active groups working on some of the same problems and issues as we do. So that's kind of a summary, but read the minutes to see what else we said.
Okay. I'd also just like to add that we've had contact with the town selectmen about attending a meeting with them, and they have been receptive, and they are going to be planning one. Going to be coordinating a joint meeting with the Mount Anthony ESD board and ourselves. So we should be expecting to hear from them soon on that issue. I brought that up at the strategic planning as well. I'm going to have the Education Committee hold off until we get to the action items for their report, because primarily their whole meeting they just held has to do with the staff reductions and program reductions, so we'll let them interject at that time. There was no finance committee meeting, there was no policy committee meeting, so we have no other committee reports then. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the minutes from the full RGB meeting, March 18, 2013. Can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Moved by Ricky, seconded by Fran. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, that passes. The warrants, we'll start with payroll warrant number 20 and 1036.
So moved.
Second it.
Moved by Ricky and seconded by Leon that time. Any discussion on the payroll warrant? All those in favor of accepting those then, please signify by raising your hand. Good, Barb. Okay. That passes. Vendor warrants, 1037 and 1038.
So moved.
Second.
Ricky and seconded by Leon. Any questions on the vendors, the vendor warrants? None? Why then, please signify by raising your hand if you approve those. And those are unanimous as well. There is a cash flow statements in your Dropbox. Is there any discussion on the cash flow statements, the revenues and expenses that have been shown there? All right, that does not need to be voted on. No discussion. We'll move on to the action items. Start right in with resignations. Jim will give us a rundown on these.
First resignation is from Lisa Buchanan, who is been office staff member here, and we have a letter from her. She is, due to her husband accepting a position in South Carolina, she's requesting that we accept this letter of notification as her leaving her position, and that was on Thursday, March 28th. She goes on to say, it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and she wishes the CDC continued success. Signed, Lisa Eames Buchanan. I don't believe you vote to accept resignation, so that's just informative.
We do.
You do vote to accept them? Okay. So then, I guess you need a motion on the first one.
Do I have a motion to accept Lisa's
moved.
resignation?
Second.
Fran, seconded by Ricky. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that's everyone here. Next one.
Next, law enforcement teacher Andy Hunt, due to, he said, the unpredictability of his full-time employment with the Bennington Police Department, as well as his recent promotion to a supervisory position there, he feels that he is not able to dedicate himself fully to his students. And again, he thanks us for the opportunity. I won't read the full letter, and he looks forward to seeing the law enforcement program in the future. And that would be Andy Hunt, law enforcement instructor. Andy was a part-time instructor here with us, and as I said, he has been promoted. He's been with us 1 year. He's been promoted with the Bennington Police Department, and his training is going to make it unable for him to continue.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Fran, seconded by Leon. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting that resignation, please signify by raising your hand, and that is unanimous. Next one.
Yeah, Richard Kritzmar, and he is a technician who's been here only a few months, and he lived in New York over an hour away and has been offered a job, as he said, just minutes from his house, and he needed a full-time job. We employed him part-time, so he resigned his position. Actually, he said he was giving us his 2 weeks' notice, but it turned out it was really 1 week because he started started his new job this past Monday, so we only got a 1-week notice on that. So that's it. He's been here. How long has he been here?
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months, yeah. Corinne's
So
out.
moved. Second.
Moved by Frank, seconded by Kevin. Wait a minute, we're going to vote on that
Oh,
one.
sorry.
All in favor then of that? It's unanimous. Next.
I had the resignation of our culinary arts instructor, Michael Galbraith. Again, he says after much soul searching and meeting with his family, closest advisor, mentors, he finds that based on personal, professional, economic, and logistical considerations that he must regrettably resign his position. Logistical is, he also lives in the Albany area. He's been commuting over an hour each way for work. I do want to commend him for, he's the only culinary instructor you've had here, for his work to get the program up and running, but he also has tendered his resignation and is going to seek employment closer to his home.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leon, seconded by Francis. Discussion. All those in favor of accepting that resignation, then please signify by raising your hand, and that is unanimous as well. Mark.
And the last resignation is our engineering and CAD instructor, Addie Van Derzen. Please accept a resignation from the Career Development Center effective at the end of the 2012-2013 school year. This is one that I told you about at the last meeting, but we didn't have in writing. It is with sincerity and gratitude I thank the CDC for the opportunities and support that I have received as both a daytime and evening instructor. She began as an evening instructor here. I've enjoyed being a teacher here. I wish you the best moving forward as we continue to provide quality career and technical education to the students of this CDC. Addie Van Derzen.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Francis and seconded by Leon.
The teacher resignations are prompted by the calendar and we had to send the non-provisional teachers a letter by the 15th of March offering them employment, and they had 15 days to accept, and provisional teachers, that is an April 15th deadline. So that's why you're seeing these now. They had to make a decision. In the case of Annie Hunt and Addie, they had to return their offer letter by that deadline, and that's when they notified us that they would not be coming back.
Okay. We're going to vote on that last resignation then. All those in favor of that, please signify by raising your hand. And that's unanimous as well, Mark. Staff reductions.
As we discussed in the subcommittee meeting, let me first do a little background for those board members who weren't there. I was charged with the task to scour the budget for possible reductions for other initiatives that the school would like, the board would like to move forward on, namely agricultural program at the middle school. So one of the recommendations that I'm recommending is that we change the business manager position to a .5. Greg is retiring. He gave his first letter of indication of retirement, I want to say last January possibly, I don't remember the month. There's a 1-year notification clause for that so that he may retire and collect his benefits. Then he, a few months ago, gave us his, what's the term? I used another when it's his irrevocable, which is the other provision of resignation. I do think there's an opportunity to do this with his retirement to reduce it to part-time for these reasons. You've had 2 studies done. First study you had done last year, you commissioned Dr. Schiller to come in here. There's been a lot of controversy around his report, but he called for the elimination of the business manager and that you contract services out through the SU. I disagree with that recommendation, but we also had a second study done of just business operations this winter, and a strictly by the numbers look at our operations, how many purchase recs we handle on a daily basis, how many warrants we handle, the size of our payroll, and how that compares to other school operations of our size. And the recommendation from that study was to reduce the business manager position to part-time, and possibly even contract out for that part-time position. So I offered that to the board as a recommendation to reposition funds within your budget for what some of your other goals are. It will not be without difficulty. There will be changes, obviously, in what we do. We might have to look at how we do payroll, which we currently do in-house, and go to a payroll service, whether that would be more efficient, cost-efficient. But that is the recommendation I'm making to you for discussion. And let me just see if I mentioned everything on that. Really, it is based on it's not a reflection of anybody's work, but it's based on the volume of work. The study shows that on any given day, we're averaging 2 purchase recs handled per day over the course of the year. That doesn't mean that it's only 2 purchase recs per day. Some days there are 9, some days there might be none. The size of the warrant, size of our payroll, the number of warrants. What I'm told by the person who does the study, that business operations in the school system is anywhere from 2 and 2.5% of the budget. For us, it's over 4% of the operation. So I'll yield for whatever questions you might have on this recommendation. Well, you also have a report on this from the subcommittee.
The subcommittee met prior to this meeting to discuss these, so I'd like Ed, who is now the chair of that committee, to give us a report as to the recommendations they discussed.
This particular position, we requested that the superintendent talk with an existing employee, and perhaps she can be convinced to move up to this position. And if that fails, then the superintendent, as far as the committee was concerned, should be allowed to go advertise for both a half-time position and or to contract it out to explore those options and come back to the board.
Okay. Any other discussion on this?
The only thing that I want to say, normally when something like this occurs, that should be listed to have that feel a certain way, and it's a new job title that has to have a job description to it, so we can understand what it is that we're asking somebody to feel or take the place of or be hired into.
We've done, Greg has been working on a revision of his job description. It's in draft form right now, but waiting for my review on that. I have reviewed it, but I have not met back with him on what those are. And there is also a draft done that was presented to the subcommittee of the advertisement for the .5 or half-time business manager, and they've recommended some changes in the list of the qualifications, so that has been done. But from a policy point of view, I don't know what happens with that job description once we've completed the draft of it.
Well,
bring that to, we don't...
Normally it comes, have a job description to the board to say this is what this position is going to be, because we're voting on a new position to be filled, and to make sure that we saw what was going into that along that line, or whatever services are into that. So I'm not sure what we're trying to do.
Well, I would expect that still to happen.
Okay.
The job description will come before the board to be approved.
Okay.
But at this point in time, we're talking strictly reducing it now to a part-time
And
position.
if that's what we want to vote on, then
Yes.
I'm all set.
Okay. Any other discussions on that? And I'd like a motion from the board that
was going to suggest that maybe we ought to put each one of these in a motion form and then have the discussion.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Good
Right.
point.
Good point.
We should have made the motion.
I'll make the motion that we make the business manager's position a half-time position. Does that
I'll
sound
second
right?
it.
Sound right?
That sounds right.
Probably be effective for next year. You want to date that, if you don't mind.
I don't know.
The next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year.
Right.
July 1st.
Okay, so the motion is that we reduce the business manager's position to a half-time position starting at the next fiscal year. It's been moved by Ricky and seconded by Francis. Any further discussion? Ed?
I presume this reduction to half-time is, we're assuming that we can find a competent person to fill it at a half-time, and if that fails,
We'll be back.
we will be back
Back to the table.
Yeah.
back to the table, then return it to a full-time position.
And I do want to commend Greg publicly for this, and also his, as he stated in his letter, his offer to work with the transition and make himself available beyond July 1st. I don't know how far beyond, but you know, he's worked well on the job description, so I think I do definitely want to publicly commend him for what is obviously an awkward task.
Thank you. Any further? Then at this time, we'll vote on this motion to reduce the position to part-time. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. And that's unanimous. We have the next staff reduction.
The next position that I'm calling for, actually, it's not a, that's it for staff reductions. The next is a program reduction.
Program
Yeah.
reduction, okay.
The program, again, same task, look for ways to reposition funds in our budget to fund other initiatives that the board wishes to move forward on. That's what brings my recommendation that you vote to eliminate Tech English. Primarily a number decision. As I look at the history of Tech English, at one point not too long ago, there was 3 sections of Tech English. We're now down to 1. And I was looking for a cut with what I consider, and I will acknowledge that is my opinion, with the lowest impact on the Tech Center. I'm not recommending that we cut a program. It will have some impact on other programs. When I made this recommendation, when I designated this as one of my cuts, I had the last numbers that I had to look at would have been enrollment from October 15th, which was our reporting deadline to the state. October 15th, the numbers for that program was 12 students in both combined from English Tech English 1 and Tech English 2. And when I look at the most recent numbers, which would be the March 15th numbers, there was 18 students total enrollment, Tech English 1, Tech English 2. When I look at the average of that, what that generates for full-time equivalents for this school year, for this district, is 3.75 full-time equivalents. That's the average that it does from the 2 semesters. If I look back as recently as, just so you have a comparison of the numbers, in 2010, there were 42 students enrolled in Tech English 1 and 2, 2011, 43, 2012, 24, and as I mentioned, 2013, 18. So we're seeing a reduction in the number of students taking the center. I will acknowledge that it does have an impact on other programs. What that impact is, I don't think I can accurately measure, but let me talk about the finances for this. When I go back to the October numbers, which is the ones that I had to deal with when I was developing this recommendation, there were 3 students from Mount Anthony in the Tech English 1 and 2, and there were 9 students from our other sending schools in there. If any of those 9 students, and I am told that there were some, that are taking a morning-long block and an afternoon-long block, and they're in tech English in between, we receive absolutely no money for those students because they're already maxed out on their 240 minutes. And in my discussions with guidance coordinator, that there were students that were in that category. I don't have the exact number. So when I tell you that we averaged a full-time equivalent of 3.75, it would be less than that number for financial reimbursement from the state. Should we have this program? Well, that's really for you to decide. It is undersubscribed. It is not generating the funds to do it, but do you want the savings from this to fund your other programs? But you asked for recommendations for cuts. That's in my opinion, and I know that others will view it differently. If you're the teacher of this program, it is very personal to you. I acknowledge that. But I was charged to come up with recommendations for cuts, and I looked for cuts that would have the least impact, in my opinion, on the center. So I will put that question.
So we have the discussion.
We need a motion then to cut this tech English position.
I'll make the motion that we reduce the Tech Edge program.
Second it.
So it's been moved by Ricky and seconded by Francis. Now we're open for discussion. Go right ahead.
I kind of liked the idea that, I forget who came up with it, of having Barb teach all the students. Can you explain how that would happen? I don't even understand how that could happen with some of these students in the center.
I don't.
Did
That
somebody
was
say
Wendy's comment, right?
Wendy's comment? Yes.
I think what happens is probably similar to what we used to do at the center prior, at the point that I came in about 10, 11 years ago, where students, one model is students are pulled out a certain number of days to receive some further instruction in reading and writing and employability, perhaps employability skills. I'm not suggesting that Bart take on the employability skills piece, but I think that there is an opportunity certainly for collaboration there. So one model is a scheduled pullout. Another is similar to what we do with increasing math literacy now, which is you're sending the teacher into the programs where it's needed to work within the programs, to work collaboratively with the instructors on sort of reading and writing across the curriculum. That would be probably in my opinion, the way to go. Reading and writing across the curriculum the same way we do math. But the goal is to increase the reading and writing literacy across the spectrum and not just be the kids who signed up for technology. So it is a quality factor. It's a loss leader, perhaps, in marketing terms, where it's costing you money, but you're providing a necessary service that would enhance the student's education while they're at the CDC.
The other question I have is, and I know this isn't you probably can't answer it, but how can we go from 43 3 years ago to 18 and no red flags came up? Is this students? I know you can't probably answer that.
Yeah, I would only be venturing guesses.
Bothers me that, and here we are, because I take it very personal that we may have to let go of a teacher too. That's her livelihood. Obviously, she loves kids and everything else. So I have a hard time swallowing that pill.
I don't have an answer
I know
for
you
you
don't.
on why it went from 43 to 18.
I have a question for you. regarding the conversation we just had with Wendy. Can you pull students out of a program and still meet the program requirements of minutes and hours, times that they're required to be in the program?
Designing curriculum on the fly, as we're doing, is a little difficult. Wendy mentioned one thing that definitely comes to mind. We would reduce the funding completely for this because there's no additional minutes of student time when we do a pullout. If we are pulling students out for remediation, or it's being done in their program, and it's related to, like it's a related English or a related math, that time probably would count. We wouldn't lose the 120 minutes that we get credit for that they're in that program. Of course, then you get into a philosophical discussion of what, then that's less time that they have in their forestry program or whatever. And so this is not a perfect solution, but the question is what is motivating the board? What do you want to do? I mean, I was asked to come up with a list of reductions. Any reduction is going to have an impact. And the impact of not making a reduction is you're not going to have all the funds that you want to develop another program.
I like the idea of incorporating it in the different other programs and be creative of how you do it. And I think Barbara would be very creative in doing this kind of thing. I hate to see it go because especially for some students, it's going to be very important for them to have it. But I think all students could benefit from it, so I like the idea of incorporating it.
It also won't count as a credit for them if it's a pullout, in the way, so the ability to give them credit for taking an English class in between two blocks would not be rectified by a pullout either. So not only would we not get any funding for them in that model, they wouldn't get an English class either.
Because they have to have so many hours doing it, is that it?
Right, we couldn't double count them in the same time block for a class. Yeah.
I think I'd be more comfortable voting to reduce this or eliminate it if we tabled it for a month and said, let's do some recruiting and see what we can do.
Yeah.
And then if it's impossible to bring the numbers up to the point where it's going to cover its cost, then I think it'd be legitimate to reduce it or eliminate it. But I'm not comfortable voting yes on this tonight.
I'm not really sure how we recruit for tech English.
But
Let's just ask ourselves the big question, and that is, do we want to tell our superintendent to go forward and look at places where we can save some costs so we can open up new programs? Or do we want to keep everything the way it is and maybe do a bake sale to raise money? I mean, we're wasting his time if he's going to come up with recommendations because we asked him to do it. I'm not suggesting that any one class is better than another. I don't know her class. I don't know anything about it. I'm trying to take an impartial look at it. He made a recommendation. He gives us the numbers. And that's what I asked him to do, is to make the reduction. Now, if we don't want to do it or we don't have the stomach to do it, then let's move on. That's simple as that. We're not going to change things.
Leon?
Well, I was just going to say that if we're going to pull out, we just wanted to make sure we knew what the gap was going to be and understand that. That's all in terms of what we're saying we want to do, because the basics is that we want to make sure that whatever we offer, that the students achieve and are able to excel in the area in which they are supposed to excel by getting whatever they need in another means. So if we pull it out and don't offer it, is it some other kind of way that they're going to be able to get what they're supposed to have to be able to do what they need to have in that particular class? I grant you, we want to make moves because this is the direction that we want to make sure that we do things and grow in the center. So we're asking you to do these things, and I just want to make sure we understand them, and we'll give them a try and move on.
Okay. Ed? Ed?
In the past, we've started new programs by using generally Perkins funds to pilot the program. Why are we trying to cut now to free up money instead of applying for grant money to start a program? And it's unrelated to this particular program.
I'm just following the directive I was given. There are grants available for programs. Could we rewrite our Perkins fund to go in another direction? I suppose that is possible, but I guess the question I asked for all the board is, I had a number of cuts lined up that would give you what you needed to create one position. So if that's no longer what you want to do, then don't make the cuts. But you won't have in this budget cycle, you will not have the money to do that next year. Is there possibilities to do it in a future budget cycle? Yes.
No, I mean...
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Laura?
So I'd like to see the purpose of the class and the curriculum and what is really taught in the class before I can vote. I'd really like to see.
So you're looking for a syllabus for a
Yes,
class?
yes.
Syllabus.
Okay, of tech English. Okay. Leon? Okay, France.
Okay. I guess I just wasted my time. I come in early, so we wouldn't have to go through this. Obviously, Ed feels awkward sitting here with Mrs. Gorbati in here, because I don't know why in hell you didn't ask those questions in there before. We sat there for an hour and a half.
Because I didn't have all...
That, I don't care. That's frustrating. You had enough information, you've had it for a while.
No, I didn't.
And then we come here and we have do the same thing over again. I don't know the program. I have nothing against the person. We already discussed what we wanted to do in there. Now you come out here and you change your mind? Come on. That's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And stop doing it. I mean, we asked the superintendent what we wanted done, and now you want to come out here and throw them under the bus. I'm not going to do that. We've already had this discussion. And because the person is sitting in the audience, come on, you can't manage a company like that. You know better than that. Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
I just wanted to say that the direction we wanted to go in, and we had some opportunities to grow this center, and one of them was in the particular area that we've asked Jim to look at and make sure we come up with funds to be able to look at the particular agricultural program out here, and we expect that to happen. And so he's coming out here with his best shot to give us what we want to have and where we think this board, this center should be going in the direction, and I'm going to have to make sure we endorse that, because that's what we're saying we need to do.
I mean, well, there you go.
I'm very concerned with cutting what we know is a good program to bring in yet another program. We have a dwindling population. We have a lot of programs for the size of our population. And to be doing this to bring in another program, which we know it will water down every other program. Every program will lose numbers. You don't get new students. We've seen it happen, and there was a reason that it was cut before, and I'm just going to speak to the elephant in the room here and say what a lot of us are thinking and are afraid to say.
At this meeting, we've received information that we didn't have the education committee, and that's the 9 other students coming from other schools, and that's 4.5 FTEs if they're in other programs. If we're gonna lose those by cutting this particular class, I don't know that we're gaining the savings that we're trying to get.
Okay. I'm going to try to sum this up then. We have asked the superintendent through the education committee to make recommendations where we can expand on other program offerings. We've been discussing this now for some time in the education committee about reinstituting particularly the ag program. But there's been other programs that have been mentioned too, of what we'd like to see offered here at the Tech Center that we feel we should be involved in. So he did that, and as he stated, he's done his work and he's come up with a list of cuts, staff reductions, and he's done it with our guidance. He identifies technical English, and technical English is recognized as the faculty has told us as a valuable course. However, the numbers are declining, and that's been shown to us as well. And there's been some recommendations from the discussion that maybe we should look at the position and rearrange it into a different type of offering that involves the programs releasing their students to technical English opportunities. I think that's about it. We've got to come to a decision tonight because we warned it and we said that we would. So if there's no other discussion, I'm going to ask for a vote on the motion. And the motion has been made and seconded to cut the technical English class.
Sure.
All those in favor, would you please signify by raising your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed, please signify by raising your hands. 1, 2, 3. Abstain. The motion carries. Did you get everything, Barb? Okay. Superintendent's report is next on the agenda.
A couple of things I want to inform you of is the air compressor in our building, which is housed in Forestry, was rated for 8,000 hours. We've exceeded 12,000 hours. We've had quite a bit of rebuild work to it. The vendor came in recently and told us that it's time to replace it. It's no longer viable for rebuild. Jim Marsden did do some estimates for us. Just informing you, I don't need any action from you. I just want you to know that so cost is $11,600 for it. There's a $1,700 incentive from Efficiency Vermont based on the 35% reduction in power usage. So we are going to move forward with replacing that. The other thing is we've talked to you about before about we need to replace one of our vans. It's an older Dodge Caravan. With the help of Greg, and he put out a request for bids for a used minivan, and I'm going to pass this out to you to see what his what came back. Greg, this came in back on Friday, correct? And this is what I need some guidance from the board from. The dilemma is we put out a request for used vans trying to be economical about it. But it's a moving target because the van might be on the lot today and not there tomorrow. This has not been warned as an action item. So that's what, Greg and I discussed today. I'll bring it forward to you. There are a couple of possibilities. You could say, the easiest thing to always do is to buy brand new because then it goes out for bid and there is no, they'll deliver or build the vehicle to to our delivery date, and the price holds and the vehicle holds. When you're buying something in the used market, it could disappear. So what you've told me in the past, if it's not an action item, you don't want to vote on it. So, Greg, you can jump in here anytime you want on how we're going to buy a moving target vehicle, because, you know, what's on the lot in between board meetings.
Could you first give us a rundown of what the van is used for? What's its primary purpose? How often is it used?
The van is used just about every day. It does co-op runs. It does, some of the vans are used for the smaller, like the Grace Christian run in the morning or in the afternoon, because it's more economical than running a bus out. So it'll depend how many students are going to any one location, whether we use a van or a bus. We have one minivan. We have two minivans. One is was a former donated vehicle, I'm told. It's, I don't know the year, but do you know? 1999. And our automotive instructor has reviewed it, and this is his recommendation that we replace it. He's not classifying it as unsafe at this time, but said that it's really not worth putting much additional work to. His recommendation is, he looked at this and not counting the person from Ohio who bid for it, going more closer. His recommendation, Greg, was the 2013 Dodge Grand Caravan with 14,000 miles, is that correct? That's the one that he would recommend that we would look at, and if it passed his inspection, that we would buy it. But by the time we go and do this and then get back to you next month, I don't know of any dealer that would hold it.
Do we have money in our budget to support this?
We do. Greg, do you want to address that?
What we do at the end of the year is we look at quote-unquote pockets of availability, the line items that have a surplus. And basically, we're looking at, before we start to look at spending stuff, $119,610. So, you know, there's money to do this.
Is it 22.9, that's their list price, or?
That is the price that they're going to sell it to us for.
So they're not going to negotiate any more than that?
I don't know if it would be proper to do that after you ask them for bids.
Yeah,
Well,
for bids.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you got a list here, but I don't understand what we're actually replacing, because that's what I was looking for. Normally, when we see these things, we see a spec sheet and say what it is that we have and what we're trying to really get. Just to say I'm getting another van, is this meeting the specifications that we need to have? The number of seats,
Do you have the
all
copy
this
of
other
the
kind of stuff that
specs you put out?
that we're trying to do. And I just wanted to make sure that we have it, and if you got that, I don't really need to see it. If you're saying, I gave everybody the same spec sheet and this is what they came up with.
Seven passenger, couple years old, 2011, 2012.
Under 25,000 miles you asked for, yeah.
Like he said, it's a 1999 Dodge, not a Dodge, Chrysler Town & Country that was donated here, so believe me, it doesn't owe us anything.
And it is a seat for seat.
That was the previous directors.
Correct,
Yeah, I know
yeah.
what you're talking about now. Okay.
I just want to know what we were
It's
replacing,
got
that's all.
about 153,000 miles on it or something.
It's got more than it deserves.
Yeah.
Greg, do you have a plan for the surplus vehicle after
What we do with surplus equipment generally is to put it on publicsurplus.com, and we've reaped tremendous benefit for those kind of sales, so that's how we'll get rid of it. Sometimes if it's really shoddy piece of equipment, a scrap dealer will take it.
But this is currently running and
I
functioning,
think,
but
I think the main thing is, you know, this is kind of a safety issue. As far as the purchasing, in absence of a policy, we use the state statute, which requires anything over $15,000. And I think if you look at that statute closely, it allows for delegation of authority to buy computer equipment.
Well, I just heard a red flag go up, and that was a safety issue, so that...
It has some significant rust that has been repaired, but now the repairs are,
It's getting into the floor and the
Yeah.
torque boxes and stuff, so
Yeah.
you want to get rid of it.
So, just for clarification in the future, that's the kind of stuff that I would like to hear that happened or took place before, because to do this thing right, there should have been, here's what we have, and this is the problems, we need it replaced, and here's the specs for what we have, and here's the specs we went out and bid it on, and we're gonna recommend that we go with this one. You could have been out of here a long time ago. That's all.
You want to break tradition and have a motion to approve this sale? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion
I'll
to,
second it.
and it's this one here, so I don't know if
the
you...
2013 with 14.3 miles for 22.9.
Right.
Okay. We have a motion by Francis, seconded by Leon. Any further discussion?
I have a
Yes.
question. I don't want to prolong this any more than anyone else, but you said there's pockets of money. Now, where are these pockets of money? If they're in the budget, isn't it budgeted for something else already?
Law enforcement salary, there's a surplus of $17,726. Assistant director salary, there's surplus $18,000. There's a contingency fund.
So what do we do? Over budget all these categories originally for the,
Hired it less than what was budgeted for a year ago.
Plus those two.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion then to purchase this van, please signify by raising your hand. Unanimous. Passes.
Thank you. And I will note, Leon, for future purposes, that the business office and I will coordinate that better so that all information is there. What I'm passing out to you is the latest numbers that we will be reporting to the Department of actually, it's the Agency of Education now, for April 15th. My understanding is we take the snapshot on March 15th, but on April 15th, because there's a 1-month lag, which the numbers go back and forth for confirmation, particularly with other schools. Gloria, you'll see we gave you the breakdown that you asked for female and male students in the programs. And you also have what this number looked like at 2013, 2012, 11, and so on. So that is for your information and any questions or comments that you might have. And we will be reviewing it and seeing what impact. I wanted you to have these numbers as soon as we have it. If you want to put it on for discussion at the next month's meeting after you've had time to review it. I just didn't want to be holding this, so we can put it on next month's agenda as an agenda item, and we'll resend this to you. That we'll put it in the Dropbox then. Would that be agreeable?
I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Good. And Bob, you got that, right? Did you, oh, you didn't get a copy?
They're on the table.
I wanted to talk to you about skills, but I see I got Kathy here, so I don't know. I have a paper to hand out to them on the wonderful accomplishments. It's the list of who skills competition was last week. There's a little handwritten note on it. I wanted to add something to you. I thought it might mean to you. We put the town of residence for the students that did participate and won gold, silver, and bronze medals in the competition. I thought that might help you recognize some names. Do you have anything you want to say? I know it's putting you on the spot. Yeah, Kathy. Kathy is the skills advisor here. What did you say?
Well, it's hard. I don't want to forget any of them. We have a lot of them.
Do you want to, Mike? Thanks.
Bronze, let me see.
It's a
18 students competed in a variety of programs. We had 2 for culinary, 2 from Comtech, 2 from video, several from my medical professions, design and fabrication. 3 from Comtech, 3 from engineering and design. We ended up getting a total, 8 students got gold medals. So next we have to look at how will we get them to Kansas, help them get to
Which is
Kansas
June
City.
24th through the 29th.
Yes, the Health Knowledgeable team won gold. T-shirt design, Katarina Hulbert, design and fabrication. It's the first time we've had somebody for T-shirt. Barbara Body worked closely with her, and she had an amazing design. It just, all the Vermont students next year will be wearing her design. A really talented artist. Gold medal for promotional bulletin board, again, another one that Barbara Body worked with. TV and video production team of Marissa Fowler, otherwise Wendy Klein's daughter, along with Nick Pembroke. Marissa's only a freshman, who was, Nick is a junior, so good things coming in the video program coming up. Silver medal, Rachel Sandoval. She's a student for marketing and Barb Gorbatis. And another one of Barb Gorbatis' students for promotional bulletin board for silver. Bronze medal, we had Trenton Endress, culinary arts, one of Michael Galbraith's students. First aid CPR, Amelia Cummings, this young woman took just the short block, Introduction to Emergency Medicine, so that itty-bitty little bit of 55 minutes a day, she was competing against students who have are working in the EMS field and have their EMTs, and she came in with a bronze. And then their technical drafting, Ben Gelheiser, Eddie Van Dersen student, got a bronze. And then the Guerrilla Communications is a sort of fun, nonverbal communication thing, and those are students from various programs. So the students did really, really well, and I hope you can support their, helping them find their way to Kansas City end of June.
So will all of these students be?
No, just gold medal winners.
Just the gold
invited.
medals, okay.
If for some reason a gold medal winner can't go, we let the executive director of Skills USA know, and they will offer it up to the silver medal winner. Lots of good things, lots of awards this year. CDC did well, considering especially the number of students we had and the number of competitions. Most of what we competed in, we got some kind of a medal.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Have we supported
Yes.
this
Yeah.
action to Kansas City before?
You have every year. So the business office will work on the funds for that. We're allowed to use our Perkins funds to send the advisors, but not the students, but I'll get back to you on how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Can't we write some more pocket of that money and?
That's our intent,
Seem
yes.
to have.
And that's, yeah. And you've done that as a committee every year, so. It's what, the great unknown is, the more successful we are, the more impact that is, but.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing, yeah. And that really is, that's our sports program. That's our football team. That's highlights what we do. So congratulations to everybody. And lucky for me, Kathy was here tonight, so she did that part of my report for me. Thank you. I'll just keep going. The next thing I was going to report on was Sophomore Summit and Career Week. I got Wendy Klein here. Would you like me to give the report, or would you like to speak to it?
Sure, I'll talk about Sophomore Summit, and Barb actually is
For Career Week.
organizer of the Career Week. Do you need a standard?
I think they would want you to it.
So, for benefit of the new board members, I think those board members who've continued are familiar with the Sophomore Career Summit. Excuse me, it is in its 9th year, so it's a very well-established program that has a lot of support from CDC faculty on the day of the event. What happens, it's taking place this Thursday, April 11th, on Bennington College campus. It's a day designed for career exploration for 10th graders. It's a county-wide event, so not only do Mount Anthony sophomores attend, but also this year Arlington Memorial High School. In the past, Grace Christian School has attended, as well as some Burr & Burton students. So we're expecting 251 students. We'll bring them to Bennington College campus on Thursday for the whole school day. Each student pre-registers for 2 one-hour workshops that are organized around career clusters, and each workshop is staffed by professionals in the community who work in a respective career field. And then the CDC teachers, on their part, function as facilitators for many of those workshops, in a couple of cases as panelists. It is a great opportunity for us to get our programs out in front of 10th graders at the point where they can make decisions about continuing their exploration by signing up for our classes and programs. So that's what it is.
Thank you, and good luck with that on Thursday. And I mentioned it to you at the last meeting that it was coming up, but the CDC took part in the Career Week that was planned for the community last week. And as Wendy said, thank you to Barb. She and her students really did a lot of the legwork, her ComTech students, for the displays that were put on by all the programs. On 2 days during lunch times, many of our instructors set up interesting and functional displays in the atrium and in the hallways. High school students were invited to stop by and learn about the many career and professional opportunities that were offered here at the CDC. And I want to thank our faculty and staff who were on hand to answer questions and provide the information and talk about the many possible careers that can be assessed through programs here at the CDC. So again, thank you to all the instructors and the students who also manned those tables. Many of our existing students manned the tables in the atrium for their programs, for their hard work to help promote the CDC. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Good. Okay, the chair's report. I have 2 items that I want to bring to the discussion table here. The first is the vacant seat by Justin, who resigned at the last meeting, and what we want to do with that seat. The bylaws are specific as to what we are supposed to do, and we did follow that the last time we had a resignation, and that states that we try to solicit from the community members to become board members. It specifies that we should go out and look for industry related to what we're doing here with our program, and try to identify that with those people. And that is what I recommend we do, and that we come back at the next meeting, and if you have a candidate that you've solicited and would like to be serving on the board, well, then I think that at that time we should discuss those candidates, and we should either approve one or we wait. It'll be just a 9-month term at that point in time that they would serve, and then they would have to run, if they want to continue to serve, at the next election. Okay? So that's what I'm recommending, that we do that. Everyone is welcome to solicit a name, and it's a tough thing to do. I did it the last time. I went out and got turned down 3 times, and but I appreciate that we follow the bylaws and the recommendations that are there. Ed?
I'm in agreement with what you're suggesting, where all of us can go do recruiting, but to be precise, the bylaws require a nominations committee that is made up of 2 and not more than 3 board members whose term does not expire for at least a year, and at least 1 but no more than 2 interested residents of the service area. And I don't know if we want to actually go through the creation of that committee to do this?
I really don't want to task another committee.
I know.
Yeah, we've got enough committee work
pointing out
going
what-
on. I hear you.
What the law requires, this is a law because it was accepted, voted on by the legislature to prove that we would operate under these provisions.
Well, I can appoint everyone here as a committee member to
There
that
you go.
committee.
Right, and that's what I was going to
And
say.
that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, except at least 2, but not more than 3 board members. So I'm not going to argue the point, I'm just pointing out what the,
Nice if your senators and congressmen follow the laws too.
yeah.
If you watch the news, they don't do that. This is petty ante as far as I'm concerned.
We could go buy the book and appoint 2 to 3, and you could bring your
Right to them.
nominations to them,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
First, and then they'll bring them to the board. How does that sound? Then we're running by the book.
I don't care.
Okay, we can do that.
Right, that would be safer.
Well, if you didn't care, you wouldn't have brought it up.
We will have, it's got to be
Get
someone
beat up
who's,
on other things, so.
it should be someone that was just recently elected then, who should be a member of the chair of the committee, right?
No, it says the
Anybody
nominations
have-
committee shall be
More than one
comprised of at least 2, but not more than 3 board members whose term does not expire for at least 1 year.
Does not expire for at least 1 year. Okay, so that's why I'm looking at the newly elected positions. I want to appoint Francis and Leon to take nominations, and that they'll gather them and bring them back here at the next meeting. Okay, so if any
So
of
we
you
want to
have-
we want to now make that public too, because we're taking, while we have Cat TV,
Good point.
and we have the banner in here, so Fran and I, Seth, will be taking names of individuals that would like to be selected, reviewed to be selected to take the spot of Justin Corcoran. Now, one of the things that we had just before, we had them tell us a little brief something about themselves or something like the last time, and we'll be doing the same thing this time to be able to select a person, and we'll bring the names here and the board will vote on it.
Okay.
Then if any of us have suggestions, we would bring it to
You could-
Fran
yeah,
or
you could-
Leon.
Yep, you can send the name to me.
I have one
Fran.
coming your way. I have got an email from a gentleman who has expressed interest, so I will send that information to you. Okay? Good, that one's settled. The other thing is, in the Dropbox, I did put a response to Barb Grabati's handout that she gave the board, which we are required to do if the board so directs me, okay, to respond to what she passed out. So I gave you a response, and I also noticed that there's some typos in there, so I need to correct it. But I'm looking to see if the board, is it the board's pleasure that I should respond in this manner?
It can be formally, or it could be here. So, this formal letter is just fine.
Okay, I will pass this on, and if you've got any other recommendations that you would like me to put in there, then please see me then after the meeting, and we'll give in the, following the policy, we'll get this sent out. That's all I have for the chair's report. Except for tomorrow evening, I want to remind you that we do have our training, a board training. It starts at 5 o'clock, there will be dinner served here then, and it is sponsored by the Vermont School Boards Association.
In this room.
In this room.
No.
Yep.
Just wanted to, I mean, Mount Anthony and SB, everybody was out here and being invited, so I hope somebody was calling up or taking names, or how many people is going to be here, I don't know.
We registered our boards.
We registered our members.
Okay,
And
and I don't think the rest of them did, they just asked everybody to,
to register themselves, yeah.
so, okay.
We had
So
a
it could
pretty
be a
good
little
turnout,
unwieldy,
so.
yeah.
Okay.
I think all but one registered, yeah.
It's a good time to get questions answered on legal matters and opinions, so I look forward to that training. They did a good job the last time. Hopefully they'll do the same. I need a motion for executive
So
session.
moved.
For personnel.
Second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
We will adjourn then to the room next door for executive session.